the Academic Staff Union of Universities has extended the ongoing strike with an additional 12 weeks. This was announced sequel to National Executive Committee's meeting held at the Comrade Festus Yayi National Secretariat in the University of Abuja on the 8th of May 2022.
Recall that industrial action earlier started on the 14th of February 2022 after the government failed to satisfactorily implement the Memorandum of Action it signed within the union in December 2020 on renegotiation of the 2009 Federal Government of Nigeria and ASUU agreement, deployment of the University Transparency and Accountability Solution UTAS, and academic allowances, funding for revitalization of public universities, both federal and states, proliferation and governance issues in the state universities, promotion arrears, withheld salaries owed for over 20 months in some cases, and non-emittance of third-party deductions. Now, it's important to have this conversation. And once again, we are joined with Joe Hansen, who is going to be analyzing this story with us. Joe, what do you make of the current situation with ASUU and the federal government?
Well, thanks for introducing me, but I'm going to use this medium to also introduce our guest who equally joins us on this conversation. But first of all, it is no surprise that ASUU is making this statement. You do recall myself that me, Olive, I'm sure Osawage was also around the corner when we had Adele Ashiru, who joined us here. He is indeed one person who will be joining us as well this morning. He had mentioned earlier on that they are, no holds barred. They're going to go extra length, extra mile to ensure that everything that they are demanding for is indeed met. He also mentioned the fact that it's quite saddening to see that while the students are at home, you do have the leaders, those who are expected to take care of take charge of the educational sector, running for the presidential seat. And he made mention as well when he joined us last week that this was going to happen. So it's no shocker to see that they have extended it to 12 more weeks. I just feel really sad for the students who actually are at home.
Yeah, but also, share your thoughts on this. There's people who have said that ASUU is being insensitive at a time like this, and they're basically to blame for keeping students at home for, this period, 3 months initially or 2 months initially, and then now an extra 12 weeks. So do you agree with that? Do you think ASUU is being insensitive and they should really just end the strike and let students go back to the universities?
Well, as a journalist, following this story thick and thin, through and through, I'm just going to go with the words that have been made by the representative from ASUU. Now, do recall that they said that there is no going back. Reasons? They did explain the reasons. They said one of the reasons is that they do not want to use the platform IPPS, which has been provided by the federal government in terms of using to pay lecturers. They also mentioned the poor degrading statements that have been made, especially from the government. Not forgetting to, they make mention of the fact that lecturers are not being well paid according to international standards. So if you put everything together, they are saying that they're not going back until these things are actually have been worked on, they have been accepted, and then they can actually have a meeting ground. They're just asking for a tryst, guys. They're asking for a tryst where everyone can come together, sit down, let's lose and let's win. So it's a case of losing and winning. But in their case, ASUU is saying that it seems that nobody wants to lose from the side of the federal government, but they just want ASUU to continue to lose on their own side. But that's not what they're asking for. Besides that, recall that this strike came as a result of the fact that they just made certain requests, laid it bare, put it on a list and shared with them. They didn't get any response until they decided to say, you know what, it seems that there's going to be a deadlock, and they went ahead to make sure that they went on a strike. It was, first of all, I'll call it a taste, as they put it, something very subtle, but later on, they went ahead to increase it, as we've seen now, 12 more weeks.
This is really, really sad, because the reports had it that the three-man committee that was set up by the president to look into this conversation between the federal government and ASUU hasn't even met once. It just seems to us, or it seems to the representatives of this student union, that they're not being taken serious and they're not being heard. At the end of the day, everybody wants to be heard. But I'm sure that we'll follow updates on this story. Thank you once again, Joe, for joining us and delivering excellently as always.
Absolutely. Also glad my father has retired. So he's no longer part of ASUU and part of the whole university
so sad
situation.
To see what's going on.